everyone, and welcome back to another Cardconomist video. Today, I have my new series, 10 Things You Didn't Know About Pokemon Cards. I'm excited to bring you guys this piece of content because for the last 4 years, I have been buying and selling Pokemon cards all 7 days of the week, 5 hours a day in my live stream. I'm like a sponge ready to be squeezed of all his information. Now, here are the rules for the video. If you watch it from beginning to end, and you don't find a single thing in the entire video that you've never heard before, let me know in the comment section and I'll never make this video again. But if you hear even one thing that you've heard for the first time, you have to let us know what it was, okay? Especially if there's a couple things you have to let us know. Okay, this gives us a gauge of if this video is useful or not. Second, if you want to be featured in the next video, try teaching me something in the comment section that I've never heard before. And that's going to be difficult because I've heard almost everything over the last 4 years. It's very hard. Whatever you've got must be pretty obscure. But if you think it's going to be cool, add it to the comment section and we'll get you in the next video. Sound fair? All right, let's begin. Number one, let's talk a little bit of history. Pokemon cards have gotten really expensive right now. Used to be that they were quite a lot more affordable. I want to talk about when I first got into the hobby, or let's say when I got back into the hobby. This would have been about 2019, roughly 4 years ago. Logan Paul had not done his event yet, and a lot of people think Pokemon cards exploded in value because of Logan Paul. So number one is going to be Logan Paul actually didn't make Pokemon cards so popular. What actually happened? What was actually going on back then was the price of the Pokemon cards were already exploding. So a lot of people think, oh my God, Logan Paul, he's the reason that the hobby is doing so well. He definitely threw fuel on the fire. There's no doubt about that. Logan Paul, one of the biggest influencers. But again, Pokemon cards were already going up in 2019. In fact, I think he saw that trend and he jumped on it. And people pushing that trend of the Pokemon cards growing were guys like Leonhardt. Pokemon had just released Hidden Fates. Hidden Fates SV49 Charizard, so beautiful. Mwah, spicy meatball, right? But it wasn't just Leonhardt. You know, it was all the major Pokemon YouTubers were really contributing. But then also you had this other video that was going super viral. Not Logan Paul. It was Gary King Pokemon. He has all the Charizards. He's in Pawn Stars trying to sell them for $1 billion. And Rick says no because he doesn't know what he's doing. Although I heard Gary King Pokemon he had no intention of selling anyways. He just wanted to bring attention to it. So Gary King Pokemon comes onto the scene with all these Charizards. And they're in these really interesting looking plastic holders. And it's the first time a lot of Pokemon collectors are ever introduced to Pokemon card grading, like the mainstream, right? And so guys like me see it and we go, oh my God, I love Pokemon cards. And now they can be graded and sold in a sort of professional manner for adults. And so that's the beginning. In my opinion, that's the turning point is 2019. COVID comes around, people get all these stimulus checks, Logan Paul does his box break, and zoom, all the cards are exploding in value now. Back then, you could buy Dark Charizard for just $800 and a Gym Challenge Charizard for like $700. Now they're both like $4,000. A box of Rocket. First edition sealed. It was like 2.4 thousand, and they were all authentic. Now they're like 15,000, and half the time you have to worry if they're a fake. So number one for things you didn't know about Pokemon cards, the turning point for the price on the cards was in 2019. It wasn't even Logan Paul. It was actually Gary King Pokemon and the release of Hidden Fates. Subject number two. Why did the Pokemon poker cards explode in price? Pokemon poker, this is a subject I'm really involved in. We're kind of jumping to the future to now. But since I own so many of them, I want to talk a little bit about them. Basically, you could buy like a deck of Pokemon Poker Green and Red for like $300 in the past. It was really cheap. Now you're lucky if they're like 1,000 or if you can find them at all because they're so rare you can't even find them. What changed with the Pokemon Poker cards? So they're a very unusual collectible. They're just a playing card, right? Like you can play poker with them. And back in the day, maybe about, I want to say 2 to 3 years ago, you ran into them on eBay when you would have like a auction block by PWCC. They're the vault company, right? And they used to be allowed to sell on eBay. That's a totally different subject story. But I would run into for the first time, I would run into the poker cards in those auctions because you'd run into the 4 of Clubs Charizard. He's very cool. And, you know, I just didn't know how to feel about him because I only ever saw him in a Beckett slab. I started to realize when I did research, PSA doesn't grade them. And that was when a bell went off in my head. I said, oh my gosh, here's a very cool looking Pokemon card, but PSA doesn't grade them yet. The PSA company is very strange, as sometimes they take a while to kind of get on board with, let's say, grading a new product that they don't normally grade. And I had a very strong feeling, because I started to realize the SGC company and the BGS company would grade poker cards that PSA would follow. So around that time period, I started buying a couple of them, selling them in stream. They were popular. People actually liked them. We had a sort of way to sell them where we would mix them up and they could be randomly pulled one card at a time, so you could get a random poker card, and this was very popular. So I just had this really strong feeling if PSA would just grade these would jump in price. This year, it's the year 2023. PSA is officially grading the poker cards now. They've got their own custom slab just for the poker card size, and they are selling for a ton of money. And the sealed decks are super expensive now. So here's an example of how I was able to predict a card that was about to jump in price. And a lot of that was just based off of the fact that we knew the card was desirable, but PSA wouldn't grade it yet. Topic number 3. Did you know PSA grades booster packs and the other companies do not? I don't know why. They definitely should get into booster pack grading. BGS, SGC, CGC, please get into booster pack grading. Booster pack grading, some people almost get offended by it, don't they? Oh, why would you ever grade your booster packs? Duh, because they go way up in value when you grade them. People love to look at the booster packs. You know, you're not just in love with the cards that come out of them, but the very image of the pack will, somehow instigate that deep feeling of nostalgia you had when you were a kid opening those packs. So yeah, booster pack grading is really valuable. Also, they're a finite resource. Sealed booster packs are finite, and they go down over time, the population of them, because people continue to open them. So if you have like a light booster pack that's not worth opening up, don't open it, leave it sealed. Go send it off to PSA to grade so that you can have beautiful artworks of the booster packs, and the heavy packs can be opened for the, chase cards on the inside. Here's some other information you might not have known. PSA has changed the booster pack holder for Pokemon cards multiple times. They used to have just a small wax pack holder that was really for smaller boosters. That's the old holder. Now they've got a new holder, and it's kind of more vertical, it's longer, and it's designed so they don't have to fold the pack over anymore. I'm pretty sure they've done another update to that where it's even tougher now. So this is one that even you experts might not have known. I used to crack the new vertical, the longer slab open by hand. So I cracked a more recent one in my latest submission, and I could have sworn there were multiple layers to it that didn't exist before. Maybe that's because when they first upgraded to the new design, it was actually too weak. It just cracked open right away. This latest design is really, really tough with multiple layers that have to be pulled apart before you can get the booster packs out. So that's number 3, PSA grades booster packs. Topic number 4. Did you know these new metal cards we keep running into are exclusively English? That's right. Pokemon for the first time released authentic metal cards. We had all these bootleg, fake Alibaba, imported from China cards. Those are really nice looking, but they're fake. They're just toys. I sold a couple of them. They're just a neat thing. But now Pokemon's officially selling metal cards. The first ones were released in 2021 in the Celebrations Anniversary Collection. So these are modern. This is a first time for the Pokemon card company. I guess you could argue the Burger King metal cards, but I don't think PSA grades them. What's significant about these is PSA actually grades these new ones, right? So you can have CGC grade them. I'm sure the other companies grade them as well. That base set Charizard, the metal base set Charizard from the Celebrations UPC, that's going to be a big deal, in my opinion. That's going to be a big deal over time. He's pretty rare. I think the last time we checked, he was only like Pop 200 with PSA. He just often does not grade 10. Maybe their technology for printing them had not been really that advanced yet. Although these new ones, like the Metal Mew, it seems like the technology has gotten somewhat better. Okay, so I'm really excited for that. They're not in the other languages. You cannot get them in Japan. So I think that that's pretty substantially impressive that that's occurring. And you'd think it would happen in Japan first and then come to America, but it's happened the other way around. So take pride in that. That's very cool, and I'm paying very close attention to the metal cards. People who are listening from China or Korea or some other country like Germany, you might be collecting Pokemon cards, and why would you want to miss out on the authentic English ones? There's a huge English market, and they're not printing them in your language currently. So I think these are hot items. And you should also be asking for them to be printed in your language or in your country. But I wonder if the technology is one of the reasons why they're not printed over there. Because we see that there's different, like the print quality with the Korean and the Chinese and the Japanese cards, they're all different. Although the Chinese and the Japanese, I'm pretty sure, are the same. But you see these like higher quality prints that don't happen here in America. Well, this is the other way around, perhaps. Perhaps America is the only one that can print these metal cards. I don't know. Let's do some more detective work on them, and we'll find out. Topic number 5 is the number of Pokemon cards printed between March 2022 and March 2023. The Pokemon card company has revealed the actual number is 9.7 billion cards. Whew, that's a huge number, man. So, and I feel that that's so important because we were just talking about the Metal Charizard from the UPC collection celebrations. And one of my feelings is that it will quickly become the most expensive card from that time period, especially because it probably really wasn't printed as much as something like the Moonbryon from Evolving Skies, of which the population is like 9,000 now. So why would you want to collect a 9,000 population Umbreon when you have a 200 population Metal Charizard with the base set image on it? So these print runs are really, really important for being a deciding factor in whether a card, becomes more hard to obtain in the future. And the harder it is to obtain, the more expensive is what we really mean. So if you want to get a card before it gets too expensive, you want to collect it earlier than everyone else. And this is why I think that people have mistakenly put all of their money into the Moonbryon while ignoring the Metal Charizard. But 9.7 billion printed Pokemon cards is really mind-bending. And you guys have to be very careful with that, especially now that you're armed with this knowledge. Because you have to be wondering, when a card is printed enough, is it really a collectible? Think about how energy cards work. Now, I know energy cards are ugly, but something else about energy cards is they're very common. They're like the most common, in fact. So the more common a thing is, the harder it is for it to be considered a collectible. You have like the Black Label with Beckett. Maybe that helps add some rarity or scarcity to an item. I myself am interested in Black Label cards. It's a pity that CGC recently got rid of their perfect grade. They really ought to reverse that decision and bring the perfect grade back and update the label on the perfect grade. In fact, I think PSA should have a perfect grade as well, because it adds to that scarcity to these very modern, very overprinted cards. But the fact of the matter is, Pokemon printed 9.7 billion cards, and now you have to wonder if your cards are really what's considered a, quote, collectible. We're now halfway through the list. If you're sincerely enjoying this, hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss the next 10 things you didn't know about Pokemon cards. Number 6, the most expensive Pokemon card ever sold. So we talked earlier about Logan Paul and about how a lot of people think he's the reason the hobby exploded, but truthfully, it was already on the move, and it was more like he jumped on an already existing trend. Well, one thing he did really contribute to the hobby recently is in 2021, he made the most expensive Pokemon card purchase of a single card ever. Most of you guys already know this one. It was the Pikachu Illustrator card. It was sold for $5,275,000. According to this article, they explained the Illustrator Pikachu card as a special card issued exclusively to the winners of a series of contests in Koro comic between 1997 and 1998. Here's the important information. Only 41 copies of this Pokemon card exists. 39 of them were issued to the winners of the competitions, and apparently 2 of these cards are in the personal collection of the card game's co-creator. Wow, very interesting. Some things you might not have known about the card is that Logan Paul likes to wear it to like his WrestleMania events in order to sort of advertise the card and raise its value. So this concept of using your celebrity or your sort of like social proofing of the card hopefully raises the value of the card so that later he can go over to his fractional ownership website and try to sell you half of the card, presumably for way more than he paid for it. So he's very clever at marketing. He's very clever at what he does. It's questionable, though, the subject of fractional ownership, if it's really worth your money to own a fraction of something you'll never get to hold, something that you have kind of no power or control over, and so the fractional ownership subject's really quite fascinating. I've also heard a rumor, and you guys can confirm if this is accurate or not, that the Pikachu Illustrator 10 that he purchased failed to get a 10 over and over again, and it got graded 10 much later, and that it actually has a white dot on the back of the card. That's very consequential if PSA really did hand a 10 out, a weak 10, to a card that has a white dot on it, when it's the leading card in the Pokemon hobby, which is primarily what they're grading. Topic number 7. Can you tell I like talking about graded cards? Because this is also going to be about graded cards. By the way, I grade cards. I have my own little card grading company called TheCardconomist Grading. I think of it like when you grade a card with me, it's like buying my merchandise. It's really fun. But this subject is going to be about which of the companies actually grades the most Pokemon cards. And we have some recent data that suggests PSA grades the most Pokemon cards by a lot. We have this useful infographic that was shared by Mr. Gem Rate, that was then shared by Mr. Z&G Emporium to his Instagram account, and it shows in the month of September 2023 that PSA graded 606,000, 500,000 TCG and non-sport cards. Look at that, isn't that wild? That's 500,000. So if you're ever wondering, why isn't my card going up in price? Just the mere number of cards coming onto the market will suppress your card value going up. That's like how inflation works, right? Just like with money, you print more money, everyone's money's worth a little less. What's fascinating is the company in number 2 place is actually CGC Cards. So that company gets a lot of hate, especially recently because of the change of their label from 9.5 to 10. But check them out, they're in 2nd place despite Beckett having been around for such a long time and having been known to be a Pokemon card grading company. So you see CGC with 91,000 grades, Beckett with 30,000, and finally SGC has the smallest amount, 10,000, but they have the most growth. I guess that's easy when you're kind of starting from the bottom. SGC, consequently, has some of the most expensive sports cards ever sold in history up to this point, but not Pokemon. So Pokemon has to lead by a lot. The question is, what will this look like 10 years down the road? I do like CGC the most, but I am sad that they do not have perfect grades anymore. They do need to bring that back, I think, in order to continue to compete. Topic number 8 is all about the Pokemon Topps franchise. So Topps actually printed some Pokemon cards in the past. They must have had the license to it. And PSA has done an absolutely horrible job of helping us understand these because there were all these different print runs. And they don't really define them that way. So this is one of the mistakes PSA's made. They really ought to just go back and redo it all, but it's really kind of straightforward. So you have Series 1 Topps, and there were a ton of print runs. That's because each of the sets had different like hollow patterns basically. So there's like the original print run is just a smooth pattern. There's nothing on it. It's just flat. It's smooth. It's a foil. And you can get that in silver or rainbow. Okay. Then there's the next print run that has like rays coming out of it. And that could be in silver or rainbow. So like rainbow rays. Then there's like a teardrop pattern. Silver teardrop, rainbow teardrop. You get it. And then finally there's a cosmic pattern. Silver cosmic and rainbow cosmic. All those printed for just Series 1 Pokemon. Isn't that wild? So there's all these different styles. One of the giveaways of the print runs is also sort of like delineated by the different color of the Topps logo on the back of the card. I don't think it really matters when they were printed, you know, like who came first, second, third, and last. But it's sort of like blue, black, green, and red. Those are the 4 different colors. And again, those will be associated with the patterns on the actual card. So it turns out the population for these cards are even much lower than you realize because PSA didn't bother differentiating them from each other. Although now they have something called rainbow foil, which they didn't when I got started, but they differentiate the rainbow foils. And those are like crazy rare. So I've got all these Series 1 boxes, and first of all, when you open the packs, it's so hard to find ones that aren't destroyed by the fact that they're sticky. The cards stick to each other and it destroys the hollow foil. But second of all, you can't even find the print runs of the later print runs. Like finding Cosmic print run is impossibly rare. Like I just acquired this Cosmic Charmander. I can't believe I got it for $200. But the reason I got it so cheap is because people just don't understand how freaking rare they are and how impossible they are to grade 10. So I love the Topps cards because there's a lot of misunderstanding in them. Besides that, there are a lot of different Topps sets. So it goes Topps Series 1, Topps Series 2, that's the Gengar set. Topps first movie. I call that the Charizard set. You know why? Because there's like 3 or 4 different Charizards in it. Topps movie is, the first movie is loaded with Charizards. Then there's like, what comes after first movie? Top Series 3 comes after first movie. And then I think there's another one. It's like Topps Neo or something like that. I can't remember the name of it. Then there's like Topps Advanced. That's going to be series. That's going to be Ruby Sapphire, right? Topps Advanced. And then I know there's a Topps the movie 2000 with the Lugia, the Chrome Lugia. So cool. Those are like $14,000 now. So there's this awesome Chrome Lugia that comes out of there. Super expensive. And all these people don't even know it exists. It's really funny. And then you get into the Topps Chrome. So Topps Chrome is kind of a reprint of Series 1, 2, and 3, but with the higher quality Topps Chrome sort of like product, right? So Topps has different product. Its premium product is called Chrome, right? Like we have Lord of the Rings Topps Chrome, so that's a premium product. And so with the Pokemon premium product, not only does it have a nice texturing to it, but you'll notice it's the combination of the Rays figuring and the Cosmic figuring. And then the rare pulls in there are the Spectra, which is when they add like a rainbow tilt to it. You tilt the card, you can see like a rainbow foil. There's Sparkle, that's the real popular one. Sparkle's really pretty. I own a Sparkle card. And then Technos that's the most rare version of what you can pull out of Chrome. So you got regular Chrome cards, and then you got rare hits in the Chrome packs. And if you get lucky, you get like a Techno Charizard, and he grades 10, and he's worth like $1 million. So that's all about the Pokemon Topps cards. I can educate you guys more on that subject. I absolutely love them. We see them falling in price and also going up in price. It really just depends on which Topps card you talk about. But I think one of the reasons they go down in price is because they're all getting graded now. So the populations are growing on them, but also people's awareness of them are growing too. So certain ones are getting really hard to obtain. They're all getting bought up. Topic number 9. I can't help but talk about my favorite Pokemon card series right now, the Cardos and Sealdos cards. Cardos and Sealdos are these really unusual Pokemon cards from Japan, printed in 1997. You have basically 3 groups for them. So you have the Pokemon Bandai, right, the Bandai company, Pokemon Bandai Cardos Pocket Monster Collection. So I love these. They're really goofy. All the drawings were drawn by Ken Sugimori, the original Pokemon card artist, or Pokemon artist, I should say. And this set has these 2 really rare checklist cards on it, where it shows the starters when they're unevolved and their final evolutions. Super expensive. All the artworks are so odd. Look at this Charizard. He has like a gooseneck. And I love how many of these cards are really depicting a Pokemon attack. There are Prism Rares in this set where they're just really beautiful. And this has been where I've been focusing a lot of my money in the hobby because they're so interesting, but especially they're very rare. From what I understand, they weren't in any sort of like booster box or booster pack. They were part of like a vending series where you went to a vending machine and it dropped you a little cardboard thing and you open it up and then it had the cards inside of it. I've never actually seen exactly what they come out of, so if one of you guys has that information, you should share it. But I have found out that they rest in these sort of like Cardos folders, and I've purchased quite a few of those because I love them so much. The other Cardos set is a little bit different. I call this sort of like the Cardos Game Boy set. Okay, so if the first set was the Pocket Monster set, because it says Pocket Monster at the bottom, I call the second one the Game Boy set. Is the reason why, when you flip the card over, it actually has an 8-bit artwork from the original game. It's so cool, dude. I've always loved the 8-bit artworks from the video game because they're so bizarre looking. Did you notice that when you played Pokemon, Red, Pokemon Blue? In Japan, it would have been Pokemon Red, Pokemon Green. And the artworks are just so bizarre. So that Cardos collection with the Game Boy figures on the back, a lot of people just didn't know that existed, but it has some of the most beautiful artworks. Look at this Charizard Holo. You can get it in red and green, and so your goal is to get both of them so you have the complete set, but there's also like Gengars in here as well. Just really beautiful. And finally, there's an even more rare set, apparently, called Sealdos. This Sealdos has a Prism Charizard. I have one of them graded 10, and at the time that I purchased it, there were only 2 of them graded 10. It's really cool looking, and I don't know what the total population on it will be over time. It's absolutely crazy how rare they are, but I love looking at them, and there's just so many more of them that I haven't collected, so I'm just watching them all the time because I really enjoy them. I enjoy how hard they are to obtain and how interesting they look and how different they are from the regular TCG. So I had to bring that to your attention as collectors. I wanted to show you what I'm collecting. That's where a lot of my attention is now. Before that, it was the poker stuff, but I've already collected a lot of the poker stuff. I happened to swallow up a lot of the sealed poker decks off the market. So now it's just a matter of getting them graded when I like the price of grading. Topic number 10. You've made it all the way to the end. Wow, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Let me know if you didn't know any of these. Now, this one's a bit more of my opinion. It's anecdotal, but it's also data-based. And this is it. The thing you didn't know. The most important thing about whether or not a Pokemon card will go up or down in price is how rare it is. That's it. Population. Graded population. So you might hear some people say, well, it's population and popularity. Popularity is like, well, the Moonbryon. He's really good looking, right? And I have to disagree. I actually think that cards fall out of popularity easily if they do not appreciate in price and if they even depreciate in price. So the Moonbryon could get really unpopular if he starts falling in price a lot and then people start dumping him because it's just not rare. What I've found is that cards that are even not popular hold on to their price and go up in price over time as long as they're extremely rare. I'm talking like Pop 10, Pop 15. You know what sets are like this rare? Really anything from the Ruby Sapphire era. Ruby Sapphire era, that's the Gold Stars, right? Ruby Sapphire, that's the Gold Stars. Rocket Returns, Holland Phantoms, that kind of stuff. Sandstorm, EX Dragon, EX Emerald, right? Really cool stuff, by the way. Those sets had the reverse hollows, and those reverse hollows they're basically like rare cards, and they're all like between Pop 15 and Pop 45. They're all really low pop. The Gold Star Charizard, he's like a Pop 100 or less than that. I've got 2 of them now because I like him so much. He's a really beautiful, shiny Charizard. One of the best looking artworks out there, by the way. I grabbed the Gold Star Torchic as a CGC 10 with a white dot on the back, of course. But yeah, so I have found from tracking prices nonstop, so this is my expert opinion, nonstop tracking, that popularity was not as important of an indicator as rarity was. Okay? And yeah, so it's a fascinating concept because we ask ourselves, what is popularity? We think popularity is how beautiful a card is, and beauty is important. But actually, I've found popularity is a bit more of a complex thing. I think popularity is also driven by the idea that the card is going up in price. Okay? So rarity is not about price. Rarity is just about how hard is it to obtain, how many have been printed. But if a card is depreciating, it doesn't matter if it's beautiful. When a card starts depreciating, people don't want it anymore. People want the card that appreciates and it stays either going up in price or holding on to its price. Not a lot of cards do that. And the number one factor that will reveal if your card will hold on to its price or move up is if it's really, really rare. So that's number 10 of the things you didn't know about Pokemon cards. If you want a good indicator of whether your card will go up in value, the number 1 indicator, even on an unpopular card, is if it's extremely, extremely rare. Pop 5, Pop 6, Pop 7, whatever. Just, there's hardly any of them graded 10. You can just hold on to that card because it's very rare for those to go down in price. That's because there's a monopoly on the price of the card. Only 8 guys have it. Maybe you've got 3 copies of that, and they won't sell. So you get to decide the price, and everyone starts to understand that that monopoly is occurring. Okay? So that concludes our 10 things you didn't know about Pokemon Series 1. We could make so many of these. Honestly, there's like a billion details out there. There's a billion things going on. I went with sort of broad topics instead of like hidden, useless pieces of information. Some of it was opinion. Some of it was really simple stuff that you've already known about, but maybe you just wanted to hear me talk about it. Share some things you think nobody knows in the comment section, and let me know if any of this was informative or you'd never heard of it before, and if you'd like more of it. If you really want more of it, hit that subscribe, because when I post the next video, you'll be there to watch it. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys later.